Thank you very much. So firstly, hope all is well with everybody. Good afternoon. So what I'm going to go through today is a Fortinet perspective of what we're seeing in the market. And by the way, the one thing I can set your mind at rest, the sky isn't falling in and the world isn't coming to an end because of cybersecurity or cyber risk. I'll talk about risk quite a lot. For me, it's absolutely critical to us understanding the business and the evolution. I think we can safely say that if we look at financial services and the change over the last, we can even class it as the last 18, 24 months, it's been phenomenal, and that's an understatement. But let's look at what we're seeing in the market. I'll start by looking at some of the drivers and challenges. And the reason why I do that is, we're very quick to criticize maybe some of the more traditional or older banks. And when we're looking at Fintech and we're looking at how technology can help the business, I remember having a conversation with a very established bank who I won't name and shame, but, a few years ago, probably 4 years ago, and it was all about agility. That was the focus that they said they just weren't agile enough. It's interesting now that when we start looking and talking to an awful lot of the emerging financial services organizations, their focus is purely customer. What is the customer requesting? What are they asking for? What's driving our business? And if we actually look at this report here, what they're actually saying is the trust towards the traditional banks is still there. But at the end of the day, the market is changing and it's evolving. Looking at some of the risks that they're seeing, and we say, the fintech and the big techs, are they friend or foe, or can they be both to financial services and the traditional banks? So that's an important thing, I think, for us to organize, to understand. But the transformation, as I said, is absolutely massive. And it's not easy for anybody in that market to keep up. All we have to do is look at the drivers for transformation. And how do you prepare for that? One of the biggest challenges we've seen, and just over the last few months with COVID, and I'm sure over today, you're going to get sick to death of hearing about COVID-19, but it has changed the way we look at business, the way we assist our customers, the way we help them, the way we look at the services that we're offering, even our own internal infrastructures. How do I manage my own workforce? All of that has changed, and we've still got demographic shifts, we've got governance, we've got regulatory issues, and they all have a part to play. So, nobody is saying that any of this is easy, by the way. We understand the challenges that the businesses and the financial service organizations do have, but technology can be an enabler. I will say that with a caveat, it's not just technology that you have to look at here. As I mentioned, we have to look at the changes from the emerging financial services organizations. We also have to look at, how the market is adapting, and also our processes, our training, enabling our own workforce. All of this has a part to play. So then we look at, becoming a digital champion. What type of bank, as an example, are you going to be? And we put down 4 here, the open bank, intelligent, resilient bank, the customer-centric bank. Now, you don't have to be one or all of these. You can focus on specific areas. As I said, what we are seeing very much is a lot of the emerging ones are owning the customer relationship, making it easy to do business with. But that is a combination of open and customer-centric. Intelligent bank, innovative, coming up with easier ways of contacting and being able to communicate with your customers. Resilient, looking at business continuity, probably for the more established environment, but still, it's all about accountability for those guys. So then we really start looking at rewards, customer experience, looking at how that affects the business, looking at, at the end of the day, as a financial services organization, you still have to make money. It's no use being in business if you can't pay for anything and you can't grow your business. But looking at that and different ways that you approach that business, I think is really, really important. Is the customer that goal, the bottom line? How do you adapt those ways of working? How do you make it easier for your people to do their job, even in today's environment? That's really, really important. And then we look at competition. How do you enhance your brand reputation rather than seeing it damaged? Interestingly enough, and if you want the copy of or the references that we use here, more than happy to supply them from the reports. Banks that invest in customer experience transformation, 1.9 level of recommendation, over twice willingness to take up new products, and again 1.9 greater share of the market wallet. But these are all important factors that we have to understand. Interestingly enough, customer experience has grown 25%, or the improvement in that customer level of satisfaction as well. But it's an evolving market. At the end of the day, everybody knows if you don't transform, if you don't look for change, adaptation, growth, you will not survive in this market. But of course, there's lots of different ways that you can do that. While you're doing that, of course, risk then comes into play. What is an acceptable level of risk? And I say that, not even tongue in cheek, but some of the challenges that we have, and I talk to many different markets, not just financial services. And one thing that I get as a common theme, risk isn't good or bad. It's literally just how much is acceptable. But from your perspective, of course, you've got technology that can help you. You've got culture, resources, and typically financial services have a low risk appetite. You've got regulatory pressures. They're still there. And again, with the changes that have happened, sometimes more difficult to implement. And then we look at this cyber threat risk. How do I do this transformation while maintaining this acceptable level of risk? Because that has to be. It's really interesting as well. Everybody a few years ago, it was all about this digital transformation. Now what we're seeing, and we're referring to it quite regularly as digital innovation. How can I be innovative in my market? How can I come up with new ways of doing business? And that is very often what we're seeing from an awful lot of our financial services customers. So moving on, digital innovation brings increase in cyber risk. As I did tell you, the sky is not falling in and the world isn't coming to an end. But interesting, the comment here from Ellen Ritchie, the Vice President and Chief Risk Officer of Visa in America. As the payment environment grows ever more complex and interconnected, security and trust are more important than ever. Malicious actors see how the new world as full of opportunity, whereas we see it as our responsibility to stay ahead of cyber crime, cyber criminals, and protect our customers, banks, and merchants. Now, I can honestly say I've been in this industry way too long, over 20 years. And some of the most intelligent people I've ever worked with have actually been bad guys at one point and come over to the good side. Don't underestimate how innovative they can be. And that's one word that one point that I will always make. They are smart people. Now, the challenge that we have is they have one common goal: to make as much money as quickly and easily as possible. But of course, these risks are evolving as well. You know, what do we see? It's funny, I do a presentation on risk. It's very similar to this, and I didn't come up with the term, but it's called a riskometer. You know, what are the areas that you need to focus on? Because it's not just about the technology. So we look at areas of focus. So we can look at, you know, new technologies. We can look at legacy systems that, while the bad guys have moved on, maybe the systems haven't. We look at, you know, partnerships. Will that actually open me up? Will it open my network up? How can I look at the new network models, the zero trust models? How can I look at new environments? And how can I ensure these third-party partners that I'm dealing with, maybe connecting to, have the same risk appetite as me? These are complex systems, complex ecosystems. And one of the biggest challenges still in the market today is this lack of expertise or talent. You know, I can honestly say, when COVID hit, you know, one of the things we did, or we attempted to help the whole market, was we opened up our training for free. And that was I mean, literally within a few days, we had over nearly 100,000 people sign up. That gives you an inclination on, you know, the thirst for that knowledge and how they want to do that, and hunger. But of course, all of these have this risk. 2018 global average number of security breaches increased by 11%. 62% of breach data came from financial services last year, and 300 times more likely to be targeted than other industries in financial services. That's because, you know, you're profitable for them. They see you as a money-making asset. So as we move on and we look at the threat active motives and means, you know, despite when we watch Hollywood, we watch films, you know, we see these hackers, you know, and it's not just Johnny now locked in his dorm at university, but also, you know, the biggest area that we see quite literally is cyber criminals. You know, and again, they're not limited by the limitations that you guys have, and even that we have as an industry. The one thing they do better than anybody else is communicate. Yeah, they're constantly chattering, they're constantly exchanging information. That's why, you know, they're very good at what they do. Let's accept that. But of course, there's other areas of threats as well. You know, I look at employees, contractors, partners, and they have a part to play. And as we've seen, you know, in various different political environments, etc., foreign sovereign states, you know, our financial services organizations and businesses are fundamental to the economies of our countries. Therefore, the ability to either damage or bring them down has a significant advantage to foreign states. Now, typically they have to be very organized and focused on what they're going to do, but still it has it. By very much, you know, I focus on the financial motives, but of course there are competitive advantages, and sometimes it's just about change. You know, they want to bring down the banks, but they have all these tools available. I worked in DDoS for a number of years. These are smart people. They know how to deliver ransomware, malware. They know how to bribe. They know how to gather internal information. You know, we look at the growth in some of the areas in even our business, and we're seeing a massive growth in internal monitoring of employees. So looking at what are they focused on, typically 3 areas: data, intellectual property, and just bringing down the service itself, because all of these are low-hanging fruit to these guys. They can generate money very, very quickly, very, very easily with it. So therefore, you know, that's easy for them. So looking at the consequences of these cyber attacks, you know, we look at everything from business disruption. Interestingly enough, The consequences, the one that dropped from 2017 to 2018, information loss. And we're continuing to see that. I think we're also getting an awful lot better at protecting the data, encrypting the data, and ensuring the systems that store the data have security wrapped around them. I don't need to go through these. We know that they've all happened. Again, many people can point fingers at why. I still say that one of the critical parts, and it's not just about the technology, is lack of qualified people to actually deploy, manage, and monitor these systems. You know, visibility is everything here. So how are you going to ensure this digital success? Well, of course, investment in security. Of course, I'm going to say that. I work for a vendor. But the value that they can return is head and shoulders above. But again, I will stress, it's not just about the technology. The technology can help your people work more efficiently, and therefore you get a double-edged sword, a big improvement. Looking at security at the core of this digital success, you know, all of these have a part to play, but as I stress, technology and process have to go hand in hand, and you have to get buy-in from your organization. So how can you mitigate this cyber risk? What can you do? First and foremost, you know, visibility is God. Looking at the sophisticated threats, these are not stupid guys. They know how to do it. Look at an intelligent and structured approach to security and try and simplify your compliance. These are what we're seeing from the business and the industry. So looking at, you know, what cybersecurity platform can give you this. Of course, I work for Fortinet, and I'm going to talk about this. But very much, you know, we're seeing an awful lot of, and if you look at the Gartner SASE model, this whole zero trust network access, we're seeing the demarcation between security and network is almost disappearing. It's becoming very grey and shady in the middle. It's got to be dynamic for cloud. Cloud is not applicable for everything, you know, and some applications will never be in the cloud. It just doesn't fit that model. But an awful lot of our customers, an awful lot of the people I talk to, they're on that journey of using cloud to give them that agility and dynamicism. And then we can look at AI. You know, how can AI help you? And by the way, it's not Skynet and it's not, you know, 2001 HAL, but it is there to assist and help. So looking at the areas where we see and our fabric is helping people, it typically breaks down into 3 areas. And I'd actually say there's a 4th as well, which is the teleworker. You know, looking at the branch, the data center, and really looking at the corporate macro view. I'm looking at internal segmentation. So how can we help secure the retail, the branch? Well, for me, it's all about simplification. Now, as I said to you just now, the demarcation line between even networking and security, the same demarcation line between LAN and WAN is actually disappearing. What customers are asking for now is a simple, easy to manage branch where my corporate policy is simply extended out to my branch. But I don't want to be managing hundreds of devices all from different vendors. I want to manage a single entity. And what we're seeing the growth, and one of the biggest growths in our areas, is SD-WAN for that. And that has led to SD branch, because you still have to deliver all of these services and deliver them really efficiently. If I'm going to use my people in the right way, that is really where I have to focus. Because if I've got 200 branches or even 20 branches, the amount of resource is you know, required to manage that in a environment where I've got, you know, 15, 20 different products is huge. If I can narrow that down, focus that down, where I'm giving them SD-WAN, I'm giving my users and my customers access to my resource, but I'm doing it securely, that is a really good solution. Looking at the data center, this new digital ecosystem that people are asking for, and we have to look at, what is affecting it and what the challenges are to those. I've got an expanding ecosystem. I've got OT, I've got IoT, I've got financial institutions. I've then got digital innovation. How many DevOps teams, when they're developing applications, is security in the forefront of their mind? It's not, and that's a problem. So again, education and process comes into that. And then I've got infrastructure modernization. It still has to move ahead with time. And that brings into it itself security implications, because sometimes these systems might not be proven to me. I might not have the resources to test them. And again, those challenges coming into that, how do I control access to my ecosystem? How do I understand exactly what my third parties are doing and how they're doing it? I have to have this agile, innovative attitude and approach to business. And then we look at infrastructure modernization. Where does cloud fit? Where am I on this journey? What applications are suitable for the cloud? I look at my digital partners, my cloud partners, what security services can they offer me? And is it secure enough? So then we're starting to look at these diverse cloud needs. And as I said, very often, and some organizations do have a cloud first outlook or attitude or approach to the cloud adoption. But what we're seeing with most organizations is almost a hybrid. An awful lot of them are looking at the solutions or the applications and then deciding where is it applicable. Because this private cloud, my data centers today, still will have a part to play. It's just understanding where their strengths are and where I need that agility and I need the strength of the public cloud to allow me to adapt. And then I obviously have software as a service, etc. So looking at these and the partners that we work with, we have software as a service, public cloud, these private clouds, they all have a part to play. But looking at the technologies and the options available, it's not an easy world. It's quite complicated. So what we're then seeing and we're starting to see adoption of is, when they're looking at public cloud and this shared security model, said tongue in cheek, because we all know that in that shared security model, you're responsible for your own security. What technologies and processes do I need to put in place that make it deployable with the minimum amount of risk for me? And looking at, if we look at these access environments, we mentioned open, innovative, agile. We're here to enable you to be able to manage your business. You shouldn't have to worry about the technology working. It should just work. And it should be able to communicate with, other forms of technology as well. These open architectures, and I know, and even Fortinet, in years gone by, we maybe weren't as open as we possibly could have been, but now we're seeing a driver for that. And how do I look at enterprise and, securing the enterprise and looking at the bank, looking at multiple WAN? These are the challenges. That mobile workforce, massive, massive driver in today's market. I'm also looking at network access control, IoT, OT, looking at the world where they don't have any security, some of these devices. How can I ensure if they're connected to my enterprise in whatever way, flexibility is everything, they are not posing a risk to me. So I'm not going to go into massive amount of detail about Fortinet products today, but these are some of the key elements of looking at this remote working environment that many of us are deploying today. Looking at VPNs, endpoints, multi-factor authentication, malicious activities, behavioral monitoring, Looking at my web applications that I'm supplying these services, are they secure? Internal segmentation, yeah? It's not just about north-south, it's about east and west. And looking at user and device authentication. There's zero trust network access. Until you categorically, I know exactly who you are, am I going to let you in? And looking at the IoT devices that do pose a threat, you know, you really have to start looking at network access control. Very quickly, I'm conscious of time here, we're nearly up. AI is not, as I said, Skynet and HAL in 2001. We have to understand where it can really help us. It can help us in these three core areas that we're seeing today. And then one of the biggest challenges we have literally is just about the amount of information that we have to process and manage. And we have that challenge as well. But if it can help predict, prevent, understanding insider threats, and orchestrate an automated response when it can be automated, then it assists you. What it's done is relieve the pressure off your people, and therefore that will enable them to focus on what they really need to be working on. As we said, people, process, and technology, it all goes hand in hand. There's no silver bullet for this. It all has to be done in parallel with each other. So looking at how we can help you, you know, please come and talk to us, please ask questions, more than happy to try and help. But really, you should be looking at this intelligent security that really talks to each other. And if you do that, I'm sure, you know, your businesses will be successful, and maybe we can help you. Thank you very much. That's me finished. So I understand we have Q&A. Okay.
Perfect, Steve. Thank you so much for that presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any questions for Steve, please post them in the chat function. We'll give it a couple of minutes for any questions to come through.
No worries.
No questions coming through at the moment, Steve, but for more information and to have a chat with Steve will be at the Fortinet booth in our exhibitor area. You can have a chat with Steve and the team with regards to his talk, or indeed any products and services from Fortinet. I'll just give it another minute for any other questions that may filter through, Steve. Nothing coming through, so thank you so much for that, Steve. Very insightful indeed. And as I say, Steve and the team from Fortinet available to speak throughout the day in the exhibitor hall. Please do go and have a chat with them, and thank you again, Steve.
No problem. Thank you. Thanks for your time.